What's going on, guys? This is Gene Jensen, and this video is perhaps the most important video that I have ever done, and I'll explain in a minute why. All right, so I know it's kind of a crazy claim that this is the most important video I've ever done, but you got to understand the way I fish and the way I've learned to fish, and when I taught myself how to find fish, it was all about reading a lake map, and that's what this video is about. I'm going to show you guys the basics of what you're looking for in a lake map in order to go out and find fish easier on any body of water that has a map. And with fish finders these days, like these Raymarines and the one I have on my kayak, what is the one on my kayak? Oh, the Element, the Raymarine Element. You can go and you can actually make your own lake maps using those fish finders. So anyway, let's jump right into it, and we'll start with the very bare bones basics. All right, so to begin with, let's talk about different types of, well, let's first of all talk about the difference between cover and structure. Cover and structure are not the same thing. That's one thing you got to remember. They are not the same. Cover is something a bass hides in. Structure pertains to the changing depths of the bottom that the bass relate to, or what causes the bass to funnel to an area, or it's the bare bones most important thing to a bass when they're traveling from place to place and when they're funneling bait fish to them is structure that's on the bottom. Cover is just a place to hide. So let's get that perfectly clear. I know a lot of people interchange those two, and it confuses guys who are beginning, and it makes me more than upset when people do that. But whenever you hear me talk about cover, I'm talking about brush piles and rock piles and grass and stuff that the bass will hide in. And when I say structure, I'm talking about changes in the bottom. So let's talk about structure. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is contour lines. On a topo map and on an underwater map, contour lines represent a depth. See right here, 61 is 61 feet, and this is 58, and this says 46, and then we got 34. So each one of these lines right here represent a change in depth of 1 foot, 23, 22, 21, 20, so on and so forth. The reason I say that is because the closer those lines are together, the steeper the bank is. It goes from 20 feet to 43 feet in just a short distance right here. So that's a really steep drop. And the further those lines are apart, the flatter it is. See how flat it is right here? So if you can get to the point where you can kind of see this stuff in 3D, you're golden. And it does take a while of reading topo maps and lake maps to do this. But this is kind of flat. It's a draw, and this is a hump. And we'll talk about that in a second, but you notice how this number right here is 23 and that one's 56. So this is shallower than this one. All right, contour lines. Now let's talk about the different structure. All right, the single most important piece of structure that I use on a daily basis. Basically, if I go to a lake I've never been to before, the first places that I check are points. And we're going to show you an ideal point. You got a point of land that comes up, and if you don't have a fish finder, you look for a point of land that's sticking out out into the water, and you can guarantee there's going to be more land that's sticking out even further under the water, and that is a point. Notice right here it's 20 feet, then it gets 43 here, and it's 47, 48 here, and it just sticks out further. And what happens is a bait fish will swim along this bank, and it forces them to either go up over top of this point or go around it. So they have to change direction. And as they go over top of this point, it goes up into shallower water. It reduces the amount of water that they have to get away from a predatory fish like a bass. And so the bass will use the surface of the water to push those bait fish up and to pin them against the surface and feed on them. And that's why points and humps and changes in depth and stuff are so important. It also gives a place for the bass to kind of hang out, that all the bait fish are going to end up funneling to him no matter what type of bait fish they are. So points. The second one, a hump, and this is an ideal hump. Notice it's deep water all the way around. It's like an underwater island. 23 feet right here, and it can be 2 feet. It doesn't really matter, but it's 23 feet and it's 56 feet, or 58 and 60 feet right there, and then it's deeper, what, 29, 30 feet right here. So it's a hump, and it sticks up a lot higher. This is a place where a bass will hang out all summer long, and I love it. If there's grass on it, even better. I doubt there is at 23 feet. But anyway, so that's, let me zoom in just a little bit. I know it's kind of hard to see, but so that is a hump. Now a saddle, and this is ideal right here. And on Clark's Hill Lake, where the topwater bite early in the spring or in the springtime is so ideal, they call these blow-throughs if they're super, super shallow. This one's not, this one's pretty deep. But a saddle is another place that'll hold bass. If there's current flowing through the lake, they'll hang out right here because it's a funnel, and it'll funnel the fish right there. So I'll look here, and here. So here's a point, a saddle, and a hump, all in one spot. Great places to fish. This is a long point that comes off of a hump, and it creates another hump, another place where a fish will hang out. Another thing that you need to identify when you first get to a body of water is where's the deepest water, where is the creek channel. And on big lakes like this one, I just pick an area. So say we're gonna go, let's pick this area right here, all right? And I'm gonna pick this area just to take a look at and see what I want to see, how I want to fish it, or see where the fish will be. But the first thing I identify is where is the river channel and where's the creek channel, and it's the deepest water in the area. And it's easy to see on a topo map how that river channel runs and how that creek channel runs. And so the things that I look for, or the hot spots in an area or a place that I will look first, are the outside swings of a channel. And so this river channel swings right up against this bank right here. Certain times of the year, that'll be ideal. Wintertime, that'll be an ideal place. Some might be tucked up in this pocket. But let me find one where the river channel swings up against a creek that comes in. I guess we can do this one. This is kind of a minor one, but you got an outside bend of the river channel, and a creek runs into that outside bend. This will funnel the bait fish up this river channel and into the back, in towards the back of this creek. And it also helps, it's just a great place where bass will congregate. So if I'm going to pick a spot, an area of this part of the lake to fish first, it's going to be a creek that runs into an outside bend in the river channel. And I'm going to fish that creek out and see if there's anything in it. There's a marina in the back of it, so I know it's a no wake zone. But I'm just going to look for places like that, and that's where I'm going to start. And then I'm going to work out from there. All right, now, ledges. Everybody talks about ledges, especially when they're fishing the Tennessee River. Well, here's a ledge right here, and what a ledge is, look at the contour lines. I got really shallow water right here, 10 feet deep. I got really deep water, 55 feet deep right here. So look at all the contour lines and how close they are together. This drops straight down. That ledge is the very top of that drop. So right here, 10 feet, 9 feet, right there is that ledge. And what happens is if the current is flowing this way, it flows up and over that hump and up that ledge, and that ledge creates an eddy that swirls up and down, and it gives a spot for the bass to hang out. And they'll hang out in the dead water that's in the bottom of that swirl, and that's where they will sit and ambush their prey or their bait fish. And so that's a key spot. And I'm going to make another video about ledges later on. I've got one that's pretty decent, but I've learned a ton more about ledge fishing since I made that video, so I'm going to make another one in the near future. But that's a ledge. And then you got bluff walls, which this lake is covered with bluff walls. Notice how the contour lines are real close together, real close to the bank. I guarantee that's a bluff wall, and these spotted bass that are on this lake, and about largemouth too, will hang out along that bluff wall. Same reason, it's a place that'll funnel the bait fish by. So let me see if there's anything else I need to cover. All right, now flats. And this lake does not have a lot of really ideal flats that you want to kind of point out, because it is a mountain highland reservoir. But I'm going to try to find one real quick. Let me think. Where would it be? I haven't fished this lake seriously in years and years. Okay, let's go to the back of this. Okay, flats are where the contour lines basically are further apart, and a flat can be on top of a point. See, like right here, see how the contour lines are further apart? That's a small flat that's on top of a point. If there's a brush pile or stumps or something on top of that, it'd be an ideal place to hold the fish, or rocks or any other type of cover. The fish will hang out up there if they are comfortable with that depth. But basically that's what a flat is. A flat is where the contour lines, here's one, here's a really good one right here. Actually, no, that's deep water, that's not a flat. But anyway, this is a flat at 43 feet deep. Bass probably aren't going to be on it this time of the year. But again, a big flat area where there's no contour lines running through, and it'll congregate bass in specific situations. I'm not really good at finding bass on flats, so I'm not going to dive deep into it. But here's another flat that's part of a hump. But it's one of those places that if you go over top of a flat and you see stumps and rocks and stuff like that, there's liable to be fish there. So anyway, now let's sit down and talk about the different types of lakes. All right, so I really feel like it's important to talk about the different types of lakes in this video, because points and other structure set up different in these types of lakes. And so the first type, of course, is the man-made lake that we're on today, and it usually has fairly easily identifiable points and humps and drops and holes in you can see a bunch of different stuff on the topo map, especially these highland reservoirs. But you have other lakes. You have solution lakes like you find down in Florida. And what happens with solution lakes, the way they're formed, is that the bedrock is usually not very stable. It's sandy or whatever, and over time rainwater and anything else washes it away, and it creates a bowl and fills up with water, and you have a really shallow lake. Another thing that might happen is if that and this happens down in Florida all the time, or most of the lakes in Florida were formed this way, is that same situation. You have weak bedrock or soil, and the groundwater is real close to that, and eventually the groundwater washes it all away underneath, and it collapses, and you have a sinkhole. So you have a lot of sinkhole lakes down there. The things that's missing on those lakes is you don't have a river channel, you don't have a creek channel. You don't have something that formed all of these points and humps millions of years ago. And so the points are usually very, very subtle, and also points are created by the cover. You have tons of grass down in Florida lakes, and if the grass sticks out further towards deeper water than anything else, that's going to be a point. That's going to be a fish magnet. You can have humps of grass. You can have clumps of grass that are out by themselves, secluded, and that can create that type of situation. And I don't call that structure. I still call that cover, but those are the type of the things you're looking for in those types of lakes. Identify the deepest water, and then identify where the grass or what sticks out further and closer to that deepest water, and you'll be successful on those type of lakes. All right, so the next one is called a fluvial lake. Yes, big word, smart word. But if you ever heard of an oxbow, you know what a fluvial lake is. And an oxbow or a fluvial lake is created by a river channel that changes direction or diverts itself away from where it was and leaves a hole that's filled with water. And so it might get diverted because of silt buildup or because of a log jam, and then silt buildup, and then eventually the water just doesn't flow through there anymore, and you get an oxbow lake. And that's what the world record here in Georgia was caught on back in 1932, supposedly, was caught on in an oxbow lake off of the Ogeechee River down in South Georgia. And so but yeah, those are great lakes, and they're a lot of fun to fish, and they don't typically have a whole lot of points, but they do have a channel swing because of where the old channel was. And still, you look for those things that stick out a little bit further, and you fish a lot more cover there than you do structure. All right, so the next one is one that you find up in Minnesota and New York, up north, is a glacial lake, and it was created by glaciers many, many years ago, millions and millions of years ago. But these lakes are really cool. They're not man-made, they're all natural, but some of them, and a lot of them that I've been on, have been super deep. Even the small lakes, just 100 feet deep, 200 feet, 150 feet deep, just deep lakes. And they'll have structure. It'll just be set up different. You see a lot of drops. You have shallow water that all of a sudden drops straight down into 40, 50 foot of water. And I've had a place where I was catching bass all along this quarter of a mile stretch of a drop like that, and it was straight down, and the bass were all sitting on top because there was grass on the top. But they'll have points, they'll have rock piles. I'll be on Mille Lacs Lake, which is a glacial lake. I'll be on that one in 2 weeks, and it's got rock piles out in the center of it. It's got humps that were left behind, and it looks different, but still you're looking for the same type of structure that's going to hold fish. And man, they're dynamite, especially for smallmouth. Smallmouth love being way offshore on those weird little rises and little bitty humps that are sitting out there way offshore. And last but not least is crater lakes, and you find those up in Washington, Oregon, in that area. They were created by a meteor that hit the earth and filled up with water. Those are really super clear. They typically don't have a lot of structure change. They don't typically have points and things like that. That's when you're looking more towards cover holding fish than structure. So you're looking for rock piles, and you're looking for grass, and you're looking for trees lay down and that kind of stuff. And you're looking for those subtle differences in depth change that may hold fish. And they're really tough to fish, and I have only fished one for like 3 days, and it was tough. It really was, but it's one of those things that once you figure them out, the fish are always going to be on that specific spot. Once you find that spot that is a little bit different than everything else. But those are the different types of lakes. Like I said, I really feel that it's important that you learn those just to kind of understand what you're looking at and what to expect as you go to those types of lakes. But I hope you learned something from this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comment section. If you haven't subscribed, be sure you subscribe to this channel. But like I always say, be sure to introduce somebody to fishing. Introduce them to my channel. Let me help you teach them how to fish. More importantly, get out on the water, go out and catch some fish, and have a great day. We'll see you.